3 neighbors that had lived next door to me in this house over here. See this house? Okay. I'm out here trying to weed whack. You can see my weed whacker. Waiting on the mowers to get here to mow the lawn. Okay. Now, this is my yard, okay? And this, every single man who has lived in that house over there has parked his car right there in front of my house. Why? Can some man tell me why? What? He's got an empty driveway. He's got an empty front of his house. Why? Why do they park there? I can't weed whack. It makes it difficult for me to mow. Do men just not think? What is it? Why do men park in front of my fucking house?
I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes. And just for that one moment I could be you.
And as soon as I start to talk, the dog starts to bark. This is why I never get a fucking vlog done. Last night, he woke me up. And it's hard enough for me to sleep anyway. Because I'm going through the change of life and I get hot flashes at night. I have arthritis and so my legs hurt. And so I don't sleep well. And then on top of that, I got a dog who decides, you know, to bark in the middle of the night. And the thing is, he's become like the little dog who cried wolf. His barks mean absolutely nothing, you know. He's supposed to be an early warning system, and he barks at, you know, dust. He barks at shadows. So it's real irritating, and I don't know how to train him out of that. But the only thing I do is just tell him he's, you know, about to make me go batshit insane and hope that he stops. Yesterday, I did this little piece of film because my next door neighbor on this side behind me, he's an artist, whatever. They're from Mississippi, and they had bought this house and they were going to live here, and then he decided he wanted to go back to Mississippi. Well, he landed in Mississippi just in time for Katrina, and they lost their house there, and so they moved back here. And I think he's just a grumpy, gripey, dissatisfied old man. So I made this film yesterday because every single person that has ever lived in the house, the men, not the women, the men have parked in front of my house. Now I know I have this huge elm tree and it shades everything and they have cars in the shade and all that, but I swear to God, I'm doing something about it. Because I've never been able to actually see my house without a car in front of it, you know? So I put a note on his car yesterday, you know, saying, I'm curious, why do men always park here? And of course, he didn't answer me, but this morning he comes out while I'm mowing. I'll try to give you a garden tour because it's looking real good. It's kind of in the May-tweens, but I don't know, maybe I'll explain that. But anyway, so he comes out this morning, and he comes out to his car, totally ignores me. I know he sees me. I'm, you know, sitting down on my porch, taking a rest or something. And he walks up to his house, and he's going to ignore me. Well, you know, don't fuck with the redhead because, you know, I'll say something. So I said, so tell me, why do you park there? And he goes, well, I just park where I park. I said, well, tell me this, you know, if I took one of your beautiful watercolor paintings of a garden and I stuck an SUV in the center of it, would that be a masterpiece to you? You know, I don't think that people understand that a gardener paints with living things. You know, there are views in my garden. And maybe I'll do a whole video of that, you know, just garden views. You know, if you stand here, you get a perfect view, which is a painting. If you stand here, you get a perfect view, which is a painting. So on, you know. But I never get a view out my front window without seeing his goddamn car in front. This park where a park. So I'm cleaning up, and this was my big mow, even though I was supposed to have mowers, but my fly-by-night mowers haven't come. I hire these guys that are fly-by-nights, you know, they come to my door, knock, 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 you know, and want to mow, and, you know, they charge me pretty cheap, and, you know, I don't like to mow, and I don't like John mowing, so, the bird coming down to the pond. And I don't like John mowing on the weekend, you know, he's getting older, and he's overweight, and, you know, it's not good for him to mow, so. So I try to hire somebody. Well, they're usually fly-by-night people, and they're not very reliable. And it's been 2 weeks since it's been mowed, and, yeah, it needed it. So, and I also weed whacked. I weed whacked, you know, and edged the driveway and around the yard. So, and generally when I do that, I go and I sweep real well, and then I wash it down. So his car is parked right where, you know, I usually pick up the dirt, you know, and put it in and dispose of it in the compost heap. So I'm just so pissed, you know, from his inconsiderate bullshit this morning. And why people are so goddamn inconsiderate, I don't know. But, so I take and I sweep, and everything I sweep it right under his car. And then I go, and as I'm washing all the muck and mud and dirt, etc., I am not considerate, you know, which is hard for me to do because I'm a considerate person, but I'm just spraying willy-nilly, you know, near his car, and then I leave it there, all the muck. And I've decided that that's going to be my muck collection point. I'm just going to start making a big-ass pile of muck there, you know, where he parks. You know, maybe he'll get the message. Yeah. I told John, I said, okay, my next thing is I'm going to put underneath that tree out there, I'm going to put a bird feeder, and that's where I'll feed the crap birds, what I call the crap birds, which are starlings and grackles and things that take big, huge dumps on your car, you know, so that when he, so the birds will, you know, nest, or not nest, but perch in the elm tree and take big, huge poops on his car. You know, maybe I'll make sure there's some blackberries and stuff that they can eat too. Nice little things that'll stain. So, I think the only person that could answer the question, why does every man who lives next door park there, is the dispatcher.